Hi, everybody. First of all, thanks to the Devo team for having us today. My name is Stefan. I'm Cloud Partnerships Manager in EMEA for Collibra, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about our company, what it is we do, what type of customers we serve, and how we collaborate with Google, specifically around their challenges around, data cataloging, data quality, data governance, and that type of good stuff. So again, Stefan Peters. Nice to meet you all. First of all, a little bit about Collibra as a company. Some of you might know Collibra. First of all, we are a GCP marketplace customer, right? So we're hosted on GCP. Our main focus in terms of our offering is data governance, data cataloging, data privacy, and data quality. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means exactly in terms of integrations and functionality. First of all, a little bit more about the company itself. Collibra was actually founded right here in Brussels about 14 years ago now as a spin-off of the VUB. We right now have about 10 offices across the world. We started off in Europe, but our second headquarters are actually in New York right now, but we're also present in the APAC region and, of course, a big presence in the US as well. Current valuation is about more than $5 billion. Google actually played a big role in that since they were one of the earlier investors in one of the previous rounds. So Capital G, the investment arm of Alphabet, actually did a big investment in Collibra a couple of years ago as well, which actually helped us scale into different verticals as well. You'll see later on the next slide as well. We have about 600 plus enterprise customers, enterprise meaning the bigger, more complex organizations in terms of a data ecosystem. So that's typically the type of organization we work with. We cover a lot of use cases. We try to cover a couple today, but that's a bit of the overview of Collibra as a company in general and what it is, high level, roughly, that we do. A bit about our customers, just to zoom in on who it is that we serve. So as you can see, we have a slew of customers all over the world. We started off very strong in the financial services industry, since it's a very regulated, highly regulated industry, which requires a lot of policy and that type of information around their data, right? They need to be able to track their data, know what its quality is, know what policies are applicable, who's responsible for data. So that's where we started. But over the last couple of years, we actually branched out into a more I would say diverse type of customer, right? Like retail, manufacturing, of course, insurance, which is a tangent industry. But we're available in pretty much, or we're present in pretty much any other type of industry that you can imagine right now. So the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years, that has really accelerated in terms of the type of customer that we serve. Now, all of these customers are in some shape or form or in some way trying to get a handle of their data, right? So these customers come to us with a certain question, with a certain use case or a certain problem that they're trying to solve. And to make that easier, to make that more tangible, I just basically took a couple of questions that we typically get from our customers, right? So very easy questions, very simple questions, where they seem simple at the surface, but how do I find the data I need, right? Especially complex organizations, they have enormous data infrastructure. I don't think I need to tell this audience that, the volume of data has only been increasing in the last couple of years. So a common question that we get is, how do I even find the data that is available in my enterprise? Secondly, once I've found this data, how can I trust it? What's its quality? Who's responsible for it? Where does the data come from? What's its life cycle? Does it undergo any transformations in terms of, for example, ETL logic or stuff like that? What's the business context? Because often a technical person will know where to look at a database to find, some data set. But what's the business context, right? What's the definition of that data? So the context around any data set or a BI report or anything like that. And then last but not least, also from a privacy perspective, what policies actually apply to your data, whether it's internal policies around retention or external policies around GDPR or CCPA, for example, just in general protecting sensitive data. So all of these questions typically arise from the fact that, as I mentioned before, the volume of data has been exploding in the last couple of years, right? And to get a handle of that exploding volume of data, organizations have been adopting various, systems, various tools, various storage mediums to be able to, wrap their arms around that ever-growing volume of data. So you get all of these different personas, whether it's analysts or stewards or on the technical or on the business side, interacting with that data. But there's something missing, right? There's some kind of context layer in between that actually gives you an oversight of your entire data ecosystem, right? Because right now it's a little scattered. So that's where Collibra actually comes in. Collibra actually serves as that layer between, let's say, your end user and all of the underlying applications and the information about all of the underlying sources, BI tools, ETL tools, warehouses, whatever it is that you use in your organization to consume or produce data. Collibra actually serves as that system of engagement or a system of record almost for the data that resides in your organization. So basically provide that layer of insight and understanding into your data around who's responsible, what policies are applicable, where does the data come from, what's the context, and that type of information. So basically, it's that central layer that resides in between, where your end users can find information they need about anything they want in the organization. So for that, we actually have a platform that we use, right? So it's as I mentioned before, it's a SaaS platform hosted in Google. We have different options of actually getting to the Collibra platform. There's a browser-based platform, of course, given our SaaS nature, where you can just use natural language search to find information around any data across the organization. For example, you're looking for customer information, you're looking for product information, you're looking for sensitive information specifically in the enterprise, and Collibra will actually provide you with a list of all the data assets that you're currently maintaining or managing across the organization, whether that's a data set, a column in a table in a database somewhere, whether it's a transformation job that you're running, whether it's a BI report or a policy or a definition, whatever it is, you can actually centralize that information in the Collibra platform. Same goes for the mobile application and the tablet application, by the way. So Collibra drives on metadata, right? So we're not going to take the place of, for example, a storage medium like BigQuery or anything else. We don't actually store actual data, right? We store information about the data. So in other words, the metadata. So we integrate with the underlying data ecosystem to actually surface and make that information discoverable in our platform, where then end users can easily interact with that data, shop for it as well. Because the ultimate goal actually is to create a marketplace for data. So almost like a shopping experience where an end user can go to find the information they need without having to talk to a technical person exactly like where do you find that data set? Who do I get in touch with in that data set? So in that sense, it's very self-service, where an end user can just go and find the information they need around data in the enterprise. So if we look under the hood, so under the covers of the platform, these are the applications that we actually offer, right? So it all starts with integration, right? So Collibra runs on integration, right? We're nothing without information in the platform to begin with. So we highlighted some of the Google-specific integrations that we offer, of course. That can be, I would say, the most common use case we see is around governance and cataloging and data quality on top of BigQuery. Looker is a growing use case for us as well in terms of BI reporting, right? So in other words, what we do is we actually integrate with either this Google ecosystem that you see below, or we can go beyond Google as well, right? We have a lot of organizations that have a multi-cloud strategy, for example, but we still run in Google while at the same time governing your multi-cloud strategy. And we basically make that available in our platform, right? So it starts with integration, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud. That information gets fed, that metadata gets fed into our data intelligence cloud platform, where we actually add data governance on top, so contextualization, roles and responsibilities, policies, and in short, context around your data. We can add a layer of data privacy on top of that as well, so we can help you identify where sensitive data resides, personally identifiable information, where that resides in your organization, who owns that information, what to do with it, what policies apply to that sensitive data. And then there's the top layer, which I would say is a little more technical in nature. If you look at the data catalog, That's the actual functionality or actual component that stores information about your data sets, about your BI reports, about your data storage mediums like your databases or warehouses or anything like that. That lands in the catalog. On top of that, we have data lineage capabilities. For those who aren't familiar with data lineage, it's basically information about where your data came from, what your life cycle looks like, how data is being used across the enterprise, what transformations are being performed on that data, right? Because it starts in a landing zone. It goes to, for example, eventually a consumption layer. From that consumption layer, it feeds into a BI report, like a Looker report, for example. So we actually give you a visualization of how that data is, where it originates, how it transformed, and how it's eventually being consumed, and who's responsible for the different, let's say, stages in that transformation process or in that lineage process in general. And in quality, data quality is, I would say, the youngest addition to our platform. Data quality is very much driven by AI and machine learning capabilities. Of course, we have the capability of writing custom rules, which means that you can actually create your own metrics, your own rules, and run them. I think one of the previous presentations actually spoke about Collibra data quality, where you can actually create your own metrics, right? Run them against a database. Those metrics could be, for example, this amount needs to be bigger than 0 at any time. You can, for example, create a rule around what your email address format should look like, what data types should be present in a database, and stuff like that. So those are rules that you create yourself. But we also have AI and machine learning capabilities that actually track data on a continuous basis. So whenever there's an anomaly, we actually detect it automatically, and we actually trigger a remediation process around that as well. So we also have embedded workflow processes that bring together people that collaborate on data, right? So whenever there's an anomaly that occurs or anything else that happens, right, in terms of incorrect data or unexpected results in terms of data quality, we can actually help you remediate that by bringing together the people, first of all, identifying the issue, and bringing together the people that can actually solve this issue as well. So basically, it's a platform that has a couple components that work closely together to basically bring you data intelligence, and in other words, informing you of what the current health of your data is, and in general, give you an idea of what your data is all about, right? So this is an overview of our platform. So this is just a small subset of integrations we have. We have about 60 to 80 integrations, I don't know the exact number at this point, with a variety of systems that we can actually bring together in our platform, run data quality on, and basically launch all of these different capabilities that we just talked about as well. Then specifically around how we collaborate with GCP, or what it is that we bring to the table when we work with GCP as well, right? So we are available on the marketplace. So a lot of transactions, when a customer comes to us, we can actually transact through the GCP marketplace as well, which makes it much easier for both parties actually to transact. That's more on the sales side of things. We add some critical capabilities to the GCP platform that currently aren't part of the focus for Google, like, for example, the governance capabilities, data quality capabilities, and the privacy capabilities as well. Of course, Google has its own catalog, the Google catalog as well, but that's mostly focused on the Google ecosystem, right? So the catalog for us is more of an integration point. So we bring information from the Google catalog into the Collibra platform to basically give that overarching view of all data within an organization as well. And that last point is important because even though we are hosted in the GCP ecosystem, even though we are hosted on GCP, we can still govern information outside of GCP as well, whether it's, again, that multi-cloud strategy that a company might be following, or specifically on-premise sources that you might want to govern as well. So more on the governance side of things, we add responsibilities, accountability, roles, like, for example, architects, data stewards. We add roles to data in the organization so that everybody knows who's responsible for any type of data asset that you're looking for. We basically provide a Google-like search for data, meaning that you don't need to know how to query, for example, your database. You can just use natural language search to find data. We actually surface all of the metadata around that around that data set or whatever other type of data that you're looking for. We play a big role actually in cloud migrations as well, which I'm assuming a lot of the Devo team members actually know a lot about. So in other words, instead of doing a lift and shift, we actually help you identify what needs to be migrated to the cloud and to what extent the information can reside on-premise, for example. That's something we can help with, right? Think of a platform or a framework around it. We have an enterprise-grade catalog and data quality solution, right? So we basically scale with the organization. And the last section is more around, I would say, privacy and data quality, right? So we identify data quality issues as they arise because we actually do anomaly detection as well on a continuous basis. So whenever there's an outlier or something we're not expecting, we can actually help you identify that issue and also bring in the right people to solve it. We help you identify sensitive data, where it resides, what part of the organization owns that sensitive data, and what you can or cannot do with it, right? So we help you build a framework around that. The reporting, if we look at Looker or other BI reporting solutions, we actually guarantee with the data quality solution, better data flowing into that BI report as well. And I think this is a big one as well, which we bring to GCP too. We actually take the GCP information outside of that purely technical sphere of engineers, for example, and other people that typically work within that ecosystem, and we bring it closer to the business analyst that doesn't necessarily know how to interact with, for example, a BigQuery. And we actually try to drive consumption within the Google ecosystem like that as well, to bring that information closer to, I would say, that end user as well, without that person needing to know the technical details of the underlying platform too. All right, I think I have a couple of minutes left, about 3 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm just going to, because I wanted to leave some time for questions as well. I think we have time for a couple of questions. Any questions? Yes?
So, okay, if you go back to the slide where you had Collibra and then data something and then data lineage, data quality.
This one?
Yes. So my question here is that you keep saying that Collibra stores the metadata, you don't actually store it. So my question here is, I'm thinking in my head, if transformation is done in Hadoop, for example, you need some way to track how that what exactly that transformation is done to kind of put that into the Collibra system in order for the Collibra system to understand what actually happened.
Yeah.
Is that the case where somehow the underlying transformations or engines actually have to push that data up?
Yeah, so what happens is, yeah, of course. So Sir wants to know how these transformations actually end up in Collibra that we talked about for data lineage specifically. Since we talked about the fact that we're a metadata platform, and in other words, how does that information end up in Collibra, right? Those transformations, yeah. So we actually have an agent-based infrastructure. Without going into too much detail now, I'm happy to discuss this later because this is going to be a long story. If not. So basically, we have an agent-based infrastructure. A lot of what we do is, for example, parsing SQL logic, for example. If there's a SQL stored procedure somewhere that's being run against, I don't know, database, then we actually parse that information and we bring that into Collibra. So we wouldn't actually store the data, but we would store the transformations. So in other words, joint conditions and stuff like that would be visible in Collibra. So that's considered metadata from our perspective. We wouldn't actually store record level information. That's what I meant by not storing metadata, just storing metadata, not actual data. So when we say transformations, we give you insights into the actual, for example, stored procedure parsing, or, for example, we're in the process of building an integration with Matillion as well. So they have a whole transformation process that they follow. So we can actually, a lot of that is SQL-based as well. So we can actually read that, parse that, and basically give a graphical representation of it, and at the same time providing the underlying code, let's say, of that transformation.